I'd like to bring up our panel. We have Craig Miller. Curtis Daniel. And Drew Greenberg. I'm gonna do my Madonna voice. I mean Oprah voice. I mean all the legends mixed up in my head. Michael Campbell. And Jeffrey Stepikoff. He was a writer on Sisters, which is very exciting. I was obsessed with that show. Do you know Susie Kurtz or Celia Ward? Yes? Oh, so interesting. Okay, we'll talk later. All right. So pass out the mics. All right, thanks to our distinguished panel. And I'm going to start with some group questions. So feel free to jump in, answer, and then we'll get more targeted and ask you questions specifically.
We're coming your way.
All right.
Check.
All right, Craig. Everybody good? Okay. First question. Georgia has passed tax incentives in film, video games, and now music and post-production. Has there been an intersection among these industries in the past, drawing locally from each other's talents such that a film production might take advantage of local music, interactive, or post-production? And will the new incentives open a door to more Georgia self-reliance across the industry? And I know this is a very wordy, long question, but answer it as best you can, and also maybe reintroduce yourselves and give a brief background. Craig, do you want to start? Sure.
I'll start.
Okay.
I would say the answer to the question is yes. There has been points in the past where all of those things have intersected and come together. There was a nice little bubble of production in the 80s, and we saw lots of productions fill the state, and then other people with other incentives sort of came along and competitively stole that business from us, and then we worked to build back the business. And today, with our film incentive, as well as with the 2 new bills that have just been passed, everything is coming back together again. Right now, most people come and shoot here in Georgia and then take their productions elsewhere to post-produce, although that kind of covers, although the post-production is covered in our current incentive. We're working now to build a bigger body of workers and content so that people will produce things, shoot things here, and then produce them as well. All right, next.
My name's Curtis Daniel. One of the owners of Patchwork Recording Studios here in Atlanta. I feel way out of place because I'm the only music guy here, I think.
We have questions for you, Curtis.
Yeah, so I'm not going to deal with that question, but I'm just introducing myself right now.
Perfect.
I'm Andrew Greenberg. I'm Executive Director of the Georgia Game Developers Association. I've been making games here in Atlanta since 1990. But yeah, it's definitely bringing a lot of these industries together. On the game side alone, we have a tax incentive for interactive productions, and that has been a big spark for growing this into the largest game industries in the country. But it also applies to what is called esports, competitive gaming.
Now you're on.
I just need to love it a lot more. Yeah, Curtis will show us how to use a microphone. He's the one with talent up here, that's why you're here. So we're seeing now with esports that you actually get the broadcast credit for broadcasting esports event. And the state has been incredibly forward-thinking in integrating new technologies into the tax credits. So we are seeing that not only can you make the games here, but there can be companies who then broadcast the esports, and this is making Atlanta and Georgia not just a national leader in the esports area, but a global leader in it. We see the new regulations from the department now putting live streaming as a distribution platform for broadcast, and this is directly what we're already doing, live streaming games. Game live streaming is the most popular type of live streaming. So we're expecting this to really explode. The future of media in the 21st century is live streaming, and the tax credits will put us on the map as a leader there too.
I'm Jeffrey Stepikoff. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Film Academy. and a Georgian, and excited to be here. And my response would be yes, yes, and yes as well. And without repeating anything that's been said, I'll just amplify a little of what Craig is saying, which is tax credits, yes, absolutely helping. In addition, simply put, we're reaching a kind of critical mass of content creation here across all the various media and platforms. And that content creation, indeed helped by the incentives that we're talking about, will give us ultimately the engine, the economic engine that will build a permanent and sustainable entertainment industry across all the platforms. We can drill down into that if you like, but I think that simply answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Jeffrey.
Hi, my name is Michael Campbell. I'm the president and CEO of Black on Purpose Television Network. It is the largest African-American streaming network in the world. It reaches millions of people every day on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick. It's a multi-channel platform, 16 channels, and it's an amazing platform which provides opportunities for people of color in the entire content creation and broadcast field. So as it relates to the tax credits, I think the tax credits are great, but I wish that it allowed more opportunity for the smaller filmmaker, because oftentimes it's said that they don't make as great a content or they're not as experienced, and I'm here to say that's not true. From a musical perspective, and I do have a musical background, and the brother from Patchworks is here, he will tell you from back in the day, we were making great music videos, great content, long before the tax credit ever actually involved here. We were very strong in the music side. So I wish there was more incentive, but it just seems like it was mainly created for the big guys with not much for the smaller guys, because we have to aggregate that. And that's not how films are made, particularly for Black and Latino filmmakers here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I'm out of breath a little because I ran from
Michael, follow-up
Taking down,
question.
hit a home run out there already? You're down the field?
Yes, I learned how to run the field.
Michael, follow-up question. What is the best video you were ever on the set of?
I started my career as a musician, as a record producer under Herb Abramson from Atlantic Records. And so, oh gosh, I could tell you the craziest music
That
videos.
works. I like that.
Okay, so we're in Las Vegas. I was working for DreamWorks at the time. We're shooting a video, and everybody's there. The crew is there. We're all hanging around waiting, and we call the artist, because the artist is nowhere to be found. So I'm like, hey, where are you? He says, oh, I'm shopping right now. And I'm like, we have a crew here? Like, they're getting paid? Like, you need to be here? Yeah, when I get finished shopping, I'll give you a call and let you know where I'm at. Really? That video didn't get done that day.
Mike, are you going to tell us who the artist was?
No.
No, I didn't think so. All right, I had to ask. I had to ask. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, next question. We're going to bring it back down. Get serious. All right, is it in the current statute, or would it be feasible in the future to additionally incentivize cross-industry utilization? So, for example, to give additional incentives specifically to a film or video game which does hire Georgia-based musicians for scoring, or a local animation studio for titles and effects? Well, whomever wants to jump in. Craig, do you want to start again, or whomever?
I'll try.
Okay.
I would say I would have to believe that we want to keep our incentives simple, and that right now we have a very simple plan that works better than any other state's plan. There are about 36 states with incentives right now, and we're the go-to marketplace for that. I would say with the addition of the two pieces of legislation that we had this year, we have the right package to make that work. There might be some additional work that can be done in what we call the above-the-line positions, the directors, producers, writers, in that area that might improve our talent base in Georgia and our content creators. But I feel like our plan is really a very positive plan.
I'll agree with Craig that the legislature has done a great job with the credits, and they've tweaked them and changed them and made the improvements necessary to make it, like you said, the best tax incentive program in the nation, I think in the world. I have a dream that at some point we could actually cross over between the media more, in the sense that if you film the TV show here, you get a credit. Maybe you get a tiny uptick for then doing the movie here. Then you get a tiny uptick more for doing the video game here. You get a tiny uptick more, like 1% or something like that, for doing the scoring here. And all of this to build a local industry, and even more importantly, to inspire people to create the IP and own the IP in Georgia. It's wonderful we're doing these great productions for companies elsewhere, and it's been a great employment opportunity and revenue stream for the state, but it'd be even better if those IPs were owned here, and however we could inspire that, I think we should encourage and explore.
And I'll just add and join what my colleagues are saying. Two things. One, make no mistake about it, it's not just working here in Georgia, we're killing it. We are killing it. That's right. And, you know, I don't want to spend time repeating all the numbers we've heard. We've heard this, right? Number 3 in the country for film and television production, number 5 in the world, number 1 for major feature films, 92,200 Georgians now working, $9.5 billion in economic activity. We're up 4,000% in a decade. What does this all mean? What's happening in Georgia is unprecedented. That's the message to get across. There is no other state that's ever seen anything like this before. There is no other territory in the world that's ever seen anything like this before. So two things. One, what do we need to do to make it permanent? Because there are cautionary tales all around us. Florida, New Mexico, North Carolina, there's all kinds of states that have tried this before. So we need to be having a serious conversation about how we make it permanent. At the same time, like I think Craig is saying, we need to be thoughtful about going back to the legislature for more incentive, because there's many things that the private sector can do. And simply put, we can drill into this again if you like, content creation, cross-media content creation indeed, but to be clear, we do need to support voices all across the state, voices coming from all places, all sizes, right? We don't just need to be making major movies, we need to be making all kinds of stories here in Georgia. And finally, at the Georgia Film Academy, we're looking at doing this. We're looking at training our above-the-line content creators. When I say above-the-line, I mean screenwriters, filmmakers, directors. We're looking at number 2, supporting their work. And we can do this through the private sector as well, so that we incentivize the talent to stay here in Georgia. And number 3, we need to be letting Hollywood know, for example, or Bollywood or London, that if productions come here to work, the above-the-line talent is actually included in the current tax credit. So it's working really well, but we do need to be talking about, you know, how we get our economic engine here in Georgia to be permanent. I'll stop there.
Yeah, well, the next question I was going to ask was how do we create a sustainable workforce? But I think you just laid that all out perfectly, Jeffrey. But yeah, Michael, do you want to add to it?
I think to create a sustainable workforce, it's going to take true diversity. Don't talk about diversity. Don't have meetings about diversity just to have something to drink and something to eat and then go around and it becomes the same thing. In order to create a sustainable industry, you must have diversity, all right? And that means everybody working together collectively to share in the wealth and the talent that's here in this state. If you don't do that, then you're playing games. Stop it. We need to all work together, embrace each other, and embrace the things that we're doing, because we're all talented, but we all have to work together.
Yeah. I mean, we have a little show on Sundays, and when we started T.A.G, that was one of the main things I wanted to make sure was that in every show we have different voices. I want to see people that don't look like me. I want to see people that don't have the same background as I have. And that was very important to us, because sometimes when you have those discussions, you look around and it's all white people in a room, and that's where it needs to start.
And I like white.
Okay, so bold. Yeah, white people are great.
Yeah, I like white.
We like
I'm a
you
card-carrying member.
Yes, yes.
But-
So, but I'm just saying that I started Black on Purpose Televisions to give opportunities where none created. I wish I did not have to have Black on Purpose Television, but the current way that things are right now has me in a situation where I have to provide opportunities for people that normally would not have that. So we have 6,000 pieces of content on the network. I mean,
incredible.
So I shouldn't have to do this, but I have to do it because of a need. And I need help from not just African Americans, but everybody to make this successful.
Right, right. It's good.
I'd
Craig,
like
yeah.
to interject one
Sure.
thing there. One of the things that I think has shown an outstanding track record thus far in the diversity sector is the Georgia Film Academy. And I won't steal Jeffrey's thunder from that, but we've talked about in the past how the students that you're training are a diverse group of people, and I think they should know about that.
Thank you, Craig. 30 seconds. Hollywood loves to talk about the problems regarding not having enough diversity. Hollywood puts out the writers' report every year and tells us what we all know, which is there's not enough diversity in Hollywood. I won't bore you with those statistics, but what I will tell you is your state is doing something about it. The Georgia Film Academy has been, class has been up for about 20 months. 1,900 students in those classes over the last 20 months, 600 covercraft internships rather. The last time we looked at our numbers, 52% of your Georgia Film Academy students are people of color, 48% are white. Gender is represented virtually 50-50, male and female, and all ages are represented from 18 up into really the 60s at the Georgia Film Academy. So Hollywood loves to talk about it. Your state's doing something about it. We very much agree that it's the key to, or one of the keys rather, to making sure that we have a permanent industry here.
All right, great, great thoughts. All right, Curtis, I know you want to talk, right? Yeah. He's like, all right.
When I'm in a room with smart people, I just listen. It's all good.
All right, let's ask a music question. All right, what impact do you see GAHB 155 titled the Georgia Music Investment Act having on the music industry, not the film industry, but the actual music industry?
So on that particular topic, I think the gentleman earlier quoted, I think the music industry is doing about 3.7 billion or whatever per year. I'm of the opinion that I feel like our industry is almost like the stepchild of the film and TV. I feel like our industry put Atlanta on the map. I feel like without the music industry, a lot of people wouldn't be moving here. There wouldn't be a lot of concerts, a lot of everything going on in Atlanta. The impact that I see on our industry is minimal because I read all of the requirements and stipulations that you have to do to be a part of it to even be considered to get pre-approved for the pre-approval. The biggest issue that I have about the new bill is that it's called the music tax incentive, and I feel like it's misleading because it doesn't impact the music industry. It seems like an extension of the film and TV bill. It should be called the Film and TV Production Bill Part 2, because that's who it's geared towards, that if you're doing production. In my world, it seems like a bunch of people are ignorant because they just see the title, like there's a music credit, and they think that they created a credit for the music industry and it's gonna work like the film and TV thing. I was thinking about going to the meeting in November, but after I read the bill and what it was, and I was just like, it wasn't made for us, so what's the purpose? The reason why I'm here today, even today, was funny. I thought about it. I was like, I'm gonna be in this room and all my panelists gonna have on these sports coats, and they're gonna look nice. And I was like, I feel like I need to be here to kind of represent for our culture. In my mind, I think that everything starts on the streets. We were the one driving around with big rims. Now they sell them at the Cadillac dealership. We were the ones driving around with dark tinted rims. Now they come standard. We were the one wearing the big T-shirts or whatever, but what I always like to tell people is the music industry and in the streets is where everything starts. I believe that the film and TV is standing so strong because of the foundation that the music industry built. But if you're trying to build something bigger and you never pay attention to that foundation, at some point it's gonna crumble. So I don't really feel like that bill is beneficial for us. And in my world, I wish they would just change the name of it and as he said, just quit pretending like you're doing something for the music industry, because it doesn't benefit us. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, our studio is probably like the largest studio here. We just celebrated our 23rd year. We're in Midtown. And I'm always puzzled, like, how you writing for something for us and you never talk to me or anybody in my music industry? How you writing a bill for us? Or when they were trying to pass these ordinances about shutting down studios, I went and spoke to Felicia, and I was like, the way you even wrote it doesn't even make sense. So I'm happy to be here that David or whoever, I don't know why y'all called me, but y'all called me here, and we want to be a part of the conversation if you're making bills that are supposedly to benefit us, so that we can make sure that they actually do benefit us.
All right, Curtis, when are you going to run for office? Yeah?
You know, the term is follow the money. So if there was no tax incentive, then we would not be sitting here right now. It's about the money. The film industry goes where the money is. So if there's a bigger tax incentive somewhere else, they're going there. So we are just a part of that, right? So these incentives are designed for the people that's bringing the money in. It's designed for that group of people. So when you talk about the requirements, right? Nollywood, which is the African film market, has become the #2 filmmaker in the world. Why? Because they operate off of a simple principle. You've got a camera, I've got some lights, he's got some sound, let's make a movie. Those movies have catapulted Nigeria to become #2 in the world off a simple communal kind of way that they do things. We need that same kind of thing here. We need that same kind of communal work. That's going to be the driving force in case all of this goes away because someone else has an incentive or the incentives get dropped. We have to do things that are going to solidify the film market here. Even if there's no more tax credit, we got to keep it rolling and we've got to keep it moving. And we can do that.
Curtis, I want to ask you then, because to me, Atlanta is the hip-hop capital of the world. We moved into our neighborhood so our son could go to the same public school that Andre 3000 went to. It's a true story. So what do we need to do? That's true. What do we need to do to help the music industry then? I mean, how do we make the change?
I think what they're doing for the film is great. They could actually do it for the music industry. But the title of it is the music tax credit, and it's not a tax credit for us. It's a tax credit for the production companies to come in here and do something else. To do what? Like on my end, we'll probably benefit from it because we have a big studio, and if they decide to do some portion of their music here, they'll probably call us. But for all the other studios, I don't really see a benefit. I think that the model that they're doing for the film obviously works. It's just that you need to do one for we've really been here and surviving without it, so it ain't that big of a deal in my mind. We probably do 12 or 13 sessions every single day, even through Sunday, so it's not that big of a deal. But the only reason it's offensive is because it's like, I don't know if it's like, was it a limit on the amount of money you could have attributed to the film? So you had to make another category and call it music and take that money and put it over here? Like, why are you even playing with us like you making something for us? Because our music community is so big, and our people don't always read, so they just see it and they think that what's going to happen for the music industry is what they did for the film. So I think that the plan works, and when it peaked up, I was like, okay, great. I remember I met the lady from the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, whatever you call it, Hall of Fame, and she told me that she was taking a position because they wanted to get those type of incentives for the music industry. And, you know, I was encouraged. But when you read the bill, when you read the title, you're still going to be encouraged. But when you read the bill and who the money is actually going towards, it just make you feel like, man, they should have just left us off of it and shouldn't even said it. So I think that the model that they have obviously works, because I don't think Georgia was probably in the top 10 before, and to go to all the way #1, it actually works. It just has to be something for the music industry. But again, you know, the music industry, whether we doing urban, rap, country, rock, or whatever, it's all here in Atlanta, but maybe those artists that are doing other things aren't what they want to put on the front image for Georgia. But that's what we're known for. People know Outkast is here, and Ludacris is here, and Usher is here, and Pink was here, and everything else, and all these other genres are here. And our music is going around the world, and that's what's pulling people out there. So I just think that the same thing would be cool, but it really needs to be for the music industry. And the last thing I'll say is when they do implement it, ask the people in the music industry, did it help them? You know what I mean? We would tell you what would help us, but you know, it ain't real.
All right. Thanks for your insight. Appreciate it. All right. I love asking this question because in tech, it's such a fun question to ask. I'm very articulate today. Okay. In 2030, how different will Georgia's entertainment landscape look from today? Craig, you want to start first?
Sure. In 2030, we'll have tripled our business in the state of Georgia. We will have integrated augmented and virtual reality into the world of movie making. We will have a solid base of content developers that live and work in Georgia and produce their projects in Georgia. And we will have people from all around the world coming to Georgia to do their post-production.
Curtis, Andrew, anybody else?
I'd be wanting to know how, I mean, I think we got a general question, but you guys seem to be well versed on it, but am I off, or how will the music industry look in 20 years? Or how will these bills that they pass in, that they call that, in you guys' mind, am I off, or are they supposed to help us?
I only think those bills help in terms of the music as it relates to filmmaking. Right. So I do know that like if you start a concert tour in Georgia, there's a certain amount of incentive you can get by doing your rehearsals here in Georgia and launching your first night here in the state of Georgia and going forth and doing that. That's about music. How much of that really happens, I don't know. The incentive as it's stated right now does cover 30% if you include the marketing element to your project, does include 30% rebate to the production company for the work done in Georgia. So that certainly incentivizes.
So the only thing, real quick, I don't want to.
scores.
The only thing, so in regards to the touring, so you're disqualified if you do a recording that's part of a project that has more than one song on it. So if you're an artist and you make an album, you disqualified. Then they have in there that there's a rule down at the bottom, it has probably about 12 things why you disqualified. And the funniest one for hip hop is there's a obscene language rule in Georgia that if you have obscene language, then you can't qualify for the tax credit. So it's just the weirdest thing that like we sitting here and everybody know that it ain't for the music industry, it's for the film and TV production companies. I mean, my really question of why I came here is why y'all call it that? Like, what's the purpose of calling it the music tax credit for Georgia?
I think it just came out of the legislature that way. And there's a grassroots organization called Georgia Music Partners that lobbied and worked and developed that
I'm
rule.
in the grass.
I know,
Yeah.
but they were the advocacy group that put this before the legislature and had them come up with some bill that they found satisfactory.
I think the question is pretty interestingly phrased for exactly this point, because 2030 is 13 years from now. 13 years ago, 2004 is the year before the tax credits go into effect in Georgia. And between 2005, 2008, we saw some uptick in films, we saw some uptick in games, but really didn't see the major uptick until 2008 when the credits changed dramatically from input from the industry. So I think that you kind of went straight to the point with the question, where are we going to be after these tax credits have been in place and we hope changed around? So what impact could it have? So on the audio side alone, we've got some of the best game audio people in the world here in Georgia. Rickwood Music, Wabi Sabi Sound, do game audio, and of course that's not just scoring, that's also sound effects, voiceover, and so forth for the biggest games. But I'm really encouraged at the idea that these skills are very transferable. I'd love to see more recording studios getting into other areas of media as well, taking a greater role in the movie side, taking a greater role in the game side, the VR side, and so forth, and building out these teams that can really be effective in a number of different areas. On the game side, in terms of the question, we've already gone to the 7th largest in the country. We've gone from 8 studios in 2005 to 128 at the end of 2016. I think we're just going to see this incredible growth that feeds back and forth through industries all over the place. There's so much of the talent that goes between the game side, even the music side, the film side, TV side. We're going to see this growth in the technology, in the skills, and especially in the IP being owned here in Georgia, and that's what excites me the most.
Well, we have a vision at the Georgia Film Academy that 2030 has Georgia being a full and complete ecosystem of not just a film and television industry, but a full and complete ecosystem of an entertainment industry. Shay and I were talking earlier about Ray McKinnon, who created Rectify. Rectify was shot here in Georgia. It's really about Georgia. It's written to be shot in Griffin, right? It's produced in Georgia, uses Georgia talent, but where are the writers? Where's Ray McKinnon? Ray McKinnon's on Sunset Boulevard, which is fine, but we want to change that. We want to train the next Ray McKinnon here in Georgia, and we want to incentivize the next Ray McKinnon to stay here in Georgia so that we have our writers here, so that we have our production here, so that we have our post-production here, so that we have our financing here, so that we have our distribution here, so that we have our music here. And a Georgian, regardless of what he or she does, regardless of whatever craft he or she plies, never again has to leave the state or thinking about leaving the state or think about leaving the state. So you could say a rising tide floats all boats, and we could have a long, fascinating conversation about tax credits. But at the end of the day, we are building towards a critical mass here in Georgia where we have a permanent industry. We don't want to be Yollywood. We want to be an industry that stands on its own. Just like LA stands on its own, just like New York stands on its own, just like London stands on its own. We've got great stories here to tell. We've got great music to put into these stories. I say we do it all. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Makes
makes sense.
I just want to say
Yeah.
one more thing. So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, we haven't received anything, and we've been number one in music, urban music. Well, we've been number one for over 2 decades. It's kind of like having a kid that displays that she's really good in math, but you don't spend no money on accelerating her in math. We already been dominating across the world in music. Could you imagine if y'all helped?
Curtis, do you think that is, then are you saying that's a Georgia problem, or do you think it's a worldwide problem for music and film in general?
I think my issue with people, even in the music world, is like in our thing, it doesn't matter whatever it was. I just have a problem when somebody calls something is not it. I'm like, if you're not a real recording studio, and I feel like there should be a standard and you shouldn't be able to call yourself that. I'm never gonna have a problem with a person that says, if a person never tell me they're gonna help me, I won't ever have a problem with them. But if they come up to me and say, hey, I'm here to help you, and then I reach out and they're not really helping, that's what I take issue with. So if they never would have came up with this music tax credit, we would just keep working and being number one and not feel like nothing like that. But the fact that they said, just like we did the film industry, we're gonna come up with a music tax credit for the music industry, it's like, why you even say that? We already number one, but you telling me you're gonna help me, and then when we really look at it, it ain't really what it is. And that's what the most discouraging thing is. If that wasn't the topic today, then I wouldn't even be here. But it was like, okay, well, they're supposed to be, we're talking about this intersection of film, TV, gaming, and music. Music is always the throw-in. It ain't really there. So it's like, you know, I could have set up here without a microphone, so I don't want to hammer on the same thing, but that's what we sitting here trying to talk about, the intersection and how it's going to grow together. But if we never at the table, how y'all think y'all going to grow our part? And it's like, so if you really don't want to do it, that's fine. Music is about being a rebel. We don't have any rules. We make our own way. We break everything, so it's not a big deal. But if you are saying that that's really what you're interested in, then let's really have the conversation and do something about it.
All right, I'm going to find who wrote that bill, Curtis. Don't you worry. I'll find it, make him change it. Okay. Yeah, Michael.
Georgia Production Partners, Georgia Film Academy, T.A.G. There's a lot of wonderful, great organizations that are out here that are doing some things, but the decisions are made by those that are casting. The decisions are made by the people that are putting up the money to get stuff done. So even if you had the majority of graduates are minorities, they still have to get picked and hired. So if I go on a film set and I challenge any one of you to go on a film set and just use one hand or maybe two and count the number of minorities in specific positions, I would probably go so far as to say the biggest minority employer of the film industry is the Atlanta Police Department. Because those are the ones that watch over the sets, make sure things are okay, make sure the traffic is flowing. We got to do better. What do I see in 2030? I see the film market booming. I see more gaming, more things being done, but I see much of the same as it comes to inclusion and diversity. And it's a sad commentary for looking at the future, but it's real. And so we could say, well, gee, that sounds like a sad thing, Mike, but those that are out there that are really in the industry have the ability to change that. I spoke at a panel that was at the state capitol, and a senator came up to myself and someone else on the panel and said, well, what are you guys talking about? And he said, well, we're talking about diversity in the film industry. And he said, well, the film industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry here in Georgia, isn't it? And we said yes. And he said, well, why should we do anything to change that? That's a senator here in Georgia. Why should we do anything to change that? It's already making money. Why do we need to be inclusive? So I just want you to realize the challenge that we have in front of us to move things forward, to really make this a powerhouse state. You have untapped resources of creativity, of content creators, filmmakers that are awesome here. And you're only using like a fraction of the power that's really available to you because you want to just keep it boxed in. Open up.
All right, thanks, Michael. David, how are we doing on time?
Maybe one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience.
Okay, great. Well, let me think. What do I want to ask? I actually want to ask, but I'm sure somebody will ask an esports question, Andrew, but I know it's just so popular, and I definitely want to give you time on that. But maybe just your final thoughts. I know we kind of talked about the future, but what is something we don't talk about because it's not fun to talk about is a weakness, something that we need that we don't have here in Georgia. And Jeffrey, to what you were saying too earlier, I used to live next to a rental by one of the movie companies, so I became friends with lots of people in the industry. And the one thing that I heard over and over again was the stigma of not being in LA, that they wanted to move here because they loved Atlanta, they loved the surrounding areas, they loved the affordable housing, where they could send their kids to school, whatever, a plethora of things. But the one thing was that people still took business meetings in LA, and people still do this or that in New York City. So I guess kind of what's our weakness, and how do we overcome that to become not the stigma of not being in LA?
You want to address that?
Sure.
Well, you're right. You know, I'm a film and television writer-producer for 20-something years. I have worked with Swoosie Kurtz back when I was 12.
Yes.
And
Love her.
I wasn't in LA because I liked the traffic. I wasn't in LA because, you know, we had earthquakes out there. I was there because I worked on 16 different television shows, and every single one of them I can reference the person who made an introduction for me to my next job. So, you know, you're in LA because you're going to 3rd Street Promenade, you're going to the Starbucks and hanging with friends, and that's where your agents are, and frankly, that's where your contacts are. We can change that in 2 seconds here.
Sure.
So again, without getting into the weeds, we're working on this at the Georgia Film Academy. Training, support for the people that we're training, which specifically means funding available to make the movies and television shows these folks. And 3, we want to start seeing writers' rooms here specifically so that we can start placing these students that we're training into these rooms. And guess what happens when we do that? The WGA has a mandate that every full season of a series must give, I believe it's 2 episodes to new writers, if it's 22 episodes, or 1 episode to a new writer if it's a season of 10, right? So the second you have new writers getting scripts, the agencies will be here, followed by distribution and financing, et cetera. We can change it in 2 seconds, and we're working on that. So maybe 2 years. But
Sure.
we think we can turn that stigma around. And finally, the great things about Georgia will be enough to not only keep these folks here, but indeed pull people from California and New York and Kansas to come live here, because we're kind of awesome in Georgia.
Right. Very exciting. We are awesome here.
And I think that's one of the great ideas about more of this IP being owned here in Georgia. There is a greater diversity of voices here already, and the more they have access to the tools to tell their stories, we'll hear more stories, more interesting stories, unique stories, and they'll be across film, TV, games, music, virtual reality, augmented reality, and so forth. And that's when we're really going to be setting this area on fire.
And real quick, I'm from LA, and I have the answer. Fix the damn traffic in Atlanta. Everybody move here. Y'all fix that traffic, everybody will move here.
We'll just get the VR up. You won't have to go anywhere. We'll have a set.
Thank you so much. Am I on here? We've got time, about 5 minutes, time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
Hi, everybody. I'm not a panelist. I just wanted to say something really quickly. Actually, me and my group, Matchbook Media Group, we've opened up Georgia's very first studio incubator. It's opening December 2nd, and we have over 100 million in deal flow that's going to be coming through Georgia from LA and New York. And it's really important that you guys get involved with that, because that's going to be something that brings people above the line, just like you were talking about. And Taylor Owenby, he is the pioneer behind that, and he actually knows all these people, including Patchwork Studios. But you definitely want to check it out. We are being backed by 20th Century Fox, Bloom, and all kinds of people. I know this is really random, but I just had to tell everyone about it because it's huge. And we're really excited to bring content above the line, get IP registered and created and brought here in Georgia. And we also care about diversity initiatives as well. I'm a person of color and I'm an actor. And so that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ooh, thank you. You know, I know most of you guys up there, but I kind of wrote this thing. Curtis, music's getting on the inside of the politicians. You've got to get with the politicians. You're fooling yourself thinking they're going to contact you. And you've got to help write that policy. And if you don't do that, shame on you. And I mean, I'm just being honest about that. One of the things that we do with Kingwood International Film Festival, we don't wait on anybody, we go to them. Michael, set your board with a minority focus. If for the most part, what you talked about with minority, working together and so forth, you have to establish that. You've got to get a myriad of minorities on your board so that you can help drive policy and do those kinds of things. It's very difficult, but you've got enough people that can do that. And I know you want to talk real quick, but let me finish. Jeff, we met during last year's graduation at Georgia Film Academy. I was blown away when I saw the number of young and old seasoned people. So you guys keep doing what you're doing and continue to stay on top of the trends and get these people graduated through there so they could go to work. And then I thought about this, and I thought it was kind of key was, you know, we have educational literacy along with the film stuff, but what I see here, and I see from every meeting, a group of you guys get together, you guys talk about certain things, but I think that you guys should get together first, work out your heated pieces. When you come here, you guys have a resolution so that we hear that we're at least working towards something versus kind of semi-debating, arguing what you're not getting, what you should be getting, and things like that, because I believe in resolution. I don't want to sit up in front of a whole bunch of people and talk about my sore spots. I want to work those sore spots out in advance. And then when you get here, people have something to set on, to be comfortable knowing that it's moving itself forward. All films have content, motives, and a story and scoring. You're not getting any scoring. That would piss me off too, because you have a music industry that's been here for 20-some odd years, and you need to get some of that. So you need to definitely work with policy to get those things changed with your local government here so that when they write incentive programs that you're getting a piece of it. Thank you guys very much. I'm Joe Williams, Kingwood International Film Festival.
I had just one quick comment as he goes to the next person. We purchased a school building from Atlanta Public Schools in the black community, 25,000 square feet, and adding another 10 to change the narrative and to repurpose these school buildings in the Black community for things that can now be used for positive things. So it'll have a film studio, recording studios, and training in media arts and technology right in the community. So it's an amazing project along with Atlanta Public Schools, and I'm doing it.
Andrew, you look like you had something you
And
wanted to say.
I think it's an important point that people have a voice in the public affairs arena, and we're seeing more bodies come into existence as the entertainment industries grow around the state. I'm chairing the DeKalb Entertainment Commission with a very real goal of bringing a lot more voices out of DeKalb, creating art of all types. And I think that there are a lot more places for everyone in this room to start interacting with government officials and other folks on the public sphere to make change happen and even make this an even better state for all of these.
We've got time for one last one, and then we'll move on.
Hi, my name is Sorin. I'm director of a dance company, a ballroom dance company, and I have a question for all the gentlemen from the panel. I heard you guys talking about movies, films, about music. What about dance? So how do you see the dance, especially ballroom dancing, integrated in all your ideas regarding promoting the arts and the movie?
We have
Thank
the
you.
Harlem Children's Theater Company that has moved to Atlanta, and they're going to be in the school building. So there's a dance studio, there are dance studios in the building, and the auditorium, which is being converted. So there's a focus on media arts and technology.
Well, thank you very much. A great round of applause for our panel.